So to make a fraction into a percent, you take the top number, or the numerator, and divide it by the bottom number, the denominator.
So which one goes on the inside and which one goes on the outside?
The numerator goes on the inside of the division, and the bottom number, or the denominator, will go on the outside. So 2/3 would be 3 and 2 on the inside.
Okay.
So what would you do after that?
Well, I could bring the decimal place up here.
And why do you do that?
Because we're going to add a 0 right there.
Exactly.
So then 3 can go into 26 times. And then I guess we multiply these two, so we get 18, and we're left with another 2, so we have to drop down another 0, and 3 goes in 6 times again.
Exactly. So there's a 0 right there that you brought down, and then it's the same process again, because it'll be the 18, which gives you the 2, so it's going to be repeating, because no matter how many zeros you add, you're always going to be left with the 2. So it's a line on top. So 2/3 equals 0.666, and because it's repeating, you can put a little bar on top. So what about 4/5?
Well, I guess we'd write it like this, where the top goes inside, so 4 divided by 5, and then we add a decimal and add a 0, and 5 goes into 40 8 times, so 0.8.
Exactly. And our last one, 1/5, the same idea.
Okay. So the top goes inside and the bottom goes on the outside. And add a decimal and add a 0. And 5 goes into 10 2 times. So 0.2.
The next topic is turning decimals into percents. So to do that, you just move the decimal point 2 spaces to the right.
Alright, so we'll move 0.25 over 2 spaces, 1, 2, so we get 25, right? And then 25%, so we add a percent sign.
Exactly. So what about the 55?
Do the same thing, move it over twice to get 55%.
And the last one?
Move it over twice, and we get 67.8%.
Exactly, because you don't move it over completely, you only move it over 2 to the right. The next topic is making fractions into percents. So it's a little more complicated than just decimals into percents, because you have to multiply it by 100 first. So after you multiply the fraction by 100, you then simplify.
Alright. So we multiply the fraction by 100. So we'd get 100 over 5%, which you can reduce to 5 goes into 100 20 times, so you get 20%.
Perfect. Another way to do it, if you know the fraction really well, is to do the fraction into a decimal and then from that into the percent.
Okay, so 1/2 is equal to 0.5. So we can write that as 0.5. And then we multiply by 100. So that's going to be 50%.
Perfect. Or you could just move the decimal point over 2 from the 5, but you still get the 50% as the answer. So to make a percentage into a decimal, you do the opposite of a decimal into a percent. So instead of moving the decimal point 2 to the right, you move it 2 to the left.
Okay, so 40, we move it over 2 spaces, so that would be equal to 0.4.
Exactly.
And then for 23.3, we'd move it from the decimal place over twice to get 0.233.
Perfect.
Cool.
To make decimals into fractions, you divide by the decimal place. So this means that if you only have one number after the decimal point, you would divide by 10 because it's in the tenths place. But for this one, if you have two numbers after the decimal point, you divide by 100 because it's in the hundredths place.
Okay, so 0.15 goes 2 places after the decimal place, so we're going to divide by 100, which equals 15 over 100. And then
you would simplify the fraction.
we could simplify, yeah, because both have 5, so we could take out, reduce it both by 5, so we get 3 over 20.
Perfect. What about the 0.2?
Well, there's only one spot after the decimal place, so we're going to divide by 10, so that's going to be 2 over 10. And we can reduce that to reduce by 2, so we get 1 over 5.
And then for this last one, it combines the different topics that we've talked about. So how would you get 40% to a decimal and then into a fraction?
Alright, well, we'd have to move the decimal place over twice first to get it into decimal form, so that also equals 0.4, and since that is one place after the decimal place, we'll just divide by 10. So 4 over 10. And then we can reduce that, take out a 2, we get 2 over 5. And there you go.